There we go. Wow, that's beautiful.
This looks amazing. What the heck?
Wow, it's crazy how close they are. They're like
pretty
exactly the same. Even if you put a Revision 2 Mini next to this one, there's some differences, you know?
Right, I'm even noticing this difference, the glide decay, and then there's the LFO rate right here.
In the old days, you had to say either oscillator 3 or noise, and I never modulate with noise. I don't know why, I just never got around to getting into it.
Yeah.
So you turn it to oscillator 3, and then you turn oscillator 3 to low, which puts it to subsonic frequencies. And then this would be the speed, and then this would be the wave shape.
Something like this was innovative, incredibly innovative at its time. And so to see it come back in this way, it's like, oh shucks, it's like giving the new guys, like the new kids, like learning like, man, I could actually get my hands physically on one of these and see how they like actually operate. It explains everything else that like plugin wise is out, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this was it. Like you look at any synth these days and that there's some element of it where they're following this model, you know, where you have the oscillator to the mixer, to the filter controlled by the envelopes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I'm not mistaken, this was sort of like the first mass-produced integrated synthesizer. Because before, you know, it was like a wall of modules.
Yeah, I was about to say, you had to take up this entire room.
Yeah.
Bop. I can't hit that one. Oh man, this is gnarly, dude. Ooh, yes, sir.
Do you recognize a lot of this from the D? Is it kind of, you understand like the architecture of it?
Yeah, I know it because of the, you know, the simple breakdown of, you know, the first oscillator, boom, volume, this range, and then it kind of moves down. It's like it's a fascinating setup. It moves from like left to right, but they all kind of have a different starting point depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the Model D is,
like,
yeah, it's like it's set up like a wave.
Yeah,
that is
there you
gnarly.
go.
Okay, that is crazy. I never thought about it like that. Okay.
I started music really late. I was about 20, so by the time I started music, it was like 1999. And so the big thing then was virtual analogs, like the Virus and like the KS4, the Novation stuff. I thought synthesizers were supposed to have like reverb and delay, like that seemed normal to me. And then I started getting into, you know, because analog synths were still really cheap. Like I think I got like a Korg monopoly for like $300 on eBay or something.
Oh wow!
And which is like, you know, that's a similar architecture to minimoog. But anyway, so I got that and I was like, what is this? Like, where's the reverb? And like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
So it really took me a long time to figure out how to like integrate these in and realize like you need to use effects or get pedals or whatever. So I really lucked out with this. A friend of mine, he was like really into synths, but he wasn't really a musician. And he gave me a few of his analog synths, and this is one of them. And I had it sitting there, I think that's like 2006. And I had it sitting around and I've been working on this record called Dive. And like I was at the end of the record, or I felt like I was kind of done with it. And I was just like, man, it's really missing something. And I kept trying to use a synth and never got inspired. And I finally plugged it into a guitar amp one day, a Fender Twin reverb, and just turned up the reverb. And then I started playing, I was like, that's it. Like that's, you know, like it just made sense to me. And I ended up layering it. I think every song on that record, I ended up putting it as the top layer, like the final melodic layer. And that like, it finally felt finished to me. So that was when like, I gelled with like this, or the sound started to make sense to me, and then after that, it was just kind of like became my primary instrument.
Wow.
Oh man, this thing's amazing.
Yeah, I kind of tweaked it out there.
Yeah. I end up with those kind of things, like I like those kind of like decay, like soft, like triangular wave type ones. Basically, I like to take a sawtooth and turn it into a triangle, and then so you can open it. Because I used to do this a lot, but then I got into this, cutting that off, because then you get the more. They sound about the same here, but then you can open it up. And then I like to if you put some noise in it and I'll either use the aux and that Bogner, or this.
Ooh.
You hear it just gives it that, like, you feel like you're in the 60s or something all of a sudden. And then yeah, so give that a shot.
That is actually.
And see how that noise like excites the amplifier? Like, otherwise it's a little bit simple. You get that in there.
This is crazy. That's the older one. Oh, wow.
That's the noise modulation, yeah.
What? I didn't know that. Okay, hold on. This is.
I didn't know that either. I've never heard it make a sound like that. That's amazing.
This is crazy. It's so morphable, laying down not just bass lines, but like the bass lines could also become leads. You take out that lower octave and all of a sudden you got a lead, and the effects like Big Sky come into play. You can have some 2-layer thing going on there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you start to realize that those sounds are like part of what we think is music. It's like, you're just like, that's the bass from like so many songs that you love. Like, you start to recognize these really like iconic sounds that, like, I don't know, when I was a kid, I didn't know anything about synth. I didn't even know what synths were. And then it's like you start messing with these and you realize like all the songs that you loved are like made out of these, made with these instruments.
Yeah. I think the gnarliest thing that I recently got into was drum sculpting. And so like the first couple packs that I put out during the pandemic, I actually modeled the drums from the Moog.
You synthesize like the kick and stuff? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have like sub-bass stuff going on behind the snare to make it like so thick?
Yeah, so it's more so of a filter thing, because it's like the same way you would layer, let me see if this is, yeah, the same way you would layer on this thing, let's just make this mad short. If you get a good tone out of it, that one tone can like help you layer everything up. And you can do this either right here with the snare, and then down here on a kick, just.
And you layer that behind it, huh? Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I learned about drums from just like hearing tones.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, what kind of note am I hearing? Ooh, so like, I was close. I was trying to get this. But yeah, I learned about just hearing what the machine can do, and it really just comes around just fooling around with it.
Yeah, it's versatile. You can make like pads out of it. Like, here, check this out.
Really?
That's cool. Oh, so check this out. This is another trick I like to do. If you use a square wave to modulate the filter,
that's crazy. That's beautiful.
Spooky vibrato. And then if you do audio rate, see that that's like FM synthesis now.
Ah.
So you go up to an audio rate, and now we're doing oscillator modulation at an audio rate, so you can get weird interference stuff. So check this out, play that bass, we'll play it through a bass amp.
Wait. You know what I'm thinking of? Motorcycle! That'd be a crazy way to show off.
Yeah, that's a good.
Just like. Yo, that's crazy!
Damn, okay, we gotta record that.
That's nuts! Let me take off the noise. How to make a kick drum.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a really good sound.
Yeah, because usually it would take to actually like keep hitting it, to design this. But hearing it with the reverb is...
Yeah, like actually this should be tighter. Like what about like a really tight room sound, like a very small...
Yeah.
Like that.
Ooh, that's nice.
Right there. And then put some compression.
This is crazy.
Oh my God, that's
So
amazing.
is this how they be doing those cinematic movies?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of the times when I'm getting, when I'm uninspired or just like looking for inspiration, whatever, this ARPs are how I start things. It doesn't typically end up being the main melody, but it'll create this like percussive kind of, it almost becomes like the drum beat or whatever, and it like carries, it gets me like, it just gives you ideas basically.
Ooh. Oh, that's beautiful.
And then tap it out. And now listen to this. And then it's just like, you got like instant. Maybe put a little glide. Yeah, so that's typically how I'll get inspired for something if I'm not feeling it.
Dang.
And then the cool thing is if you go to octaves, it'll step through and then do the second round.
And that's so crazy because you could just kind of just sit here.
And then if we bring, and then make it more plucky. That's nice. Oh, and then we'll do.
This is beautiful, man.
I have two phases, I think. Like there's the inspirational phase where you're just throwing everything at the wall. And that's when I do mostly my serial effects processing. So I like to do it just in a row, like as if you're playing a guitar amp with a bunch of pedals and you're just running the signal through it. So the reverb is going into the delay and the delay is catching that reverb and spinning out with it. And then, putting a 100% wet like modulation effect over the whole thing instead of like a parallel path like you normally would. So I'm just stacking plugins on top of each other. I think Big Sky just came out, the plugin. I always would use that with the minimoog. So now I use the plugin most of the time so I have more control in post. And then Echo Boy by Sound Toys is one of the best. And then Shaper Box is just one of my favorite modulation plugins because you have so much control. It has like time, pitch modulation, volume, pan, whatever, all these crazy parameters. Yeah. That's the problem with ARPs, is I just get stuck.
Yeah,
I just play them all day and it's like, I'll just record myself for like an hour and then go back and be like, oh, that was like a moment.
Yeah.
And then when you chop them up out of context, you start to get like really interesting patterns that I never would have thought of on my own,
Yeah. It's funny because creatively, I've been trying to get more out of Virgil Abloh had this thing that he mentioned about becoming like a child creatively, where you just kind of like throw paint at the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the way that you have the sequencer set up with the new and then the classic is that you can literally just kind of just hold it and just kind of throw it at the wall. And I think that's just one of the cool things about how I think the simplicity, but how simplistic it is also makes it complex.
Yeah.
So.
It just leaves so much space. And that's the thing is like, I love polyphonic synths, but like, it's almost like these force you to think on a really basic level of just like, how does this oscillator sound? And then let's take that and like, see what we can do with it afterwards. But like, there's no pure or better sounding oscillator, I think. And like, if you've ever played like a memory Moog, which is basically sort of a polyphonic mini Moog, it gets out of control really quick and like, it's really hard to make it all work together. Whereas this is just pure, simple, one note at a time. It's kind of like playing a lead on a guitar or something. It's like you're just focused on one string at a time and that pure tone.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this thing.
Yeah.
It's just there's not too much to think about. It's everything you need. It's right there.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier to be creative with it.